Welcome to Thoughts and Theories. Have you ever noticed how two completely different philosophies, born on opposite sides of the world, can end up saying almost the same thing about life? Buddhism, one of the oldest spiritual traditions from the East, and Existentialism, a modern Western philosophy shaped by thinkers like Sartre, Camus, and Kierkegaard. One speaks of enlightenment, the other speaks of absurdity. But deep down, both are staring at the same truth. Life doesn't make sense, and yet we must find a way to live meaningfully within it. Let us start with the basic question both of them ask. What is the point of life? Buddhism begins by saying that life is suffering, not in a pessimistic or depressing way, but as a fact of existence. Everything changes. Everything fades. You get what you want, but eventually you lose it. You fall in love, but people die. You work hard, but success never truly satisfies. The Buddha called this dukkha, the unsatisfactory nature of existence. It's the recognition that even pleasure carries within it the seed of pain, because nothing lasts forever. Now, move across time and geography to 20th century France. Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus looked at life and said something quite similar. Existence itself feels absurd. We are born into a world without meaning. We spend our lives searching for purpose, but the universe stays silent. Camus called this the absurd, the clash between our desire for meaning and the world's indifference. The Buddha saw suffering. Camus saw absurdity. But they both saw the same thing. Human beings chasing stability in a world that constantly shifts beneath their feet. Let's think about this for a moment in everyday terms. Imagine you buy a new phone. You feel excited for a while. It's sleek, new, and fast. But a few months later, there's a newer one. Suddenly, yours feels outdated. You start wanting something else. That's desire. The same thing happens with relationships, careers, or even hobbies. The satisfaction always fades. Buddhism teaches that this constant craving is the source of suffering. Camus would say it's part of the absurd cycle. We keep climbing hills like Sisyphus, only for the stone to roll down again. But here's where it gets interesting. Both Buddhism and existentialism agree on the diagnosis. Life feels empty, unstable, and often meaningless. Yet both offer a cure that isn't as hopeless as it first seems. Buddhism says, stop clinging. Don't fight impermanence. Accept that everything changes. When you stop chasing permanence in a temporary world, suffering begins to dissolve. Liberation comes not from controlling life, but from seeing it clearly. That's what enlightenment means, awakening to reality as it is without illusion. Existentialism takes a different path to a similar conclusion. It says, yes, life has no built-in meaning, but that doesn't mean despair. It means freedom. Since the universe doesn't give you a purpose, you are free to create your own. Sartre said that existence comes before essence. In simple words, you are not born with a fixed purpose. You define yourself through your choices and actions. The meaning of life isn't discovered. It's invented. So Buddhism says, let go. Existentialism says, take responsibility. One sounds like detachment, the other like rebellion. But both are ways of responding to the same emptiness. Both say that waiting for life to make sense is a trap. The meaning is not out there somewhere. It is found or created through how you live. Consider how both approaches deal with death. For the Buddha, death is not an end, but part of an ongoing process, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. We cling to life because we fear losing what we have. But once we accept impermanence, death loses its terror. Camus, on the other hand, called death the ultimate absurdity. We live, we struggle, we love, and then we vanish. But he didn't suggest running from it. He said we must confront it head-on. Like his famous example of Sisyphus, condemned by the gods to roll a boulder up a hill forever, only for it to roll back down, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. because in embracing the struggle he transforms punishment into purpose. Both views are strangely comforting. The Buddha and Camus would agree that meaning is not given to you. It's born from awareness and acceptance. You find peace not by escaping reality but by embracing it fully, even in its absurdity. Let's take an example from modern life. Imagine you're working a job you don't love, paying bills, scrolling through social media, wondering what it's all for. You see people achieving great things, traveling, posting perfect lives, and you feel that same question Camus asked. What's the point? Buddhism would tell you, this sense of emptiness is not a failure. It's a glimpse of truth. It's showing you that external things can never fill the internal void. Existentialism would say, yes, life feels pointless, but that's exactly why you must choose your own meaning. Maybe your meaning is helping others, creating art, or simply living authentically. Both agree, the absurdity doesn't go away, but your relationship to it can change. Think about how this plays out in how we handle emotions. In Buddhism, emotions like anger, fear, and jealousy arise because of attachment, because we cling to how we think things should be. When we accept things as they are, emotions pass like clouds. Existentialism views emotions similarly, as part of the human condition. You can't erase anxiety or despair, but you can face them. Kierkegaard called it the dizziness of freedom. When you realize you are free to create your own meaning, it's terrifying, but also empowering. Both traditions see awakening not as an escape from anxiety, but as the ability to live with it consciously. One might argue that Buddhism is spiritual and existentialism is secular. But if you look deeper, both reject blind faith. The Buddha said, "Do not believe in anything merely because you have been told it." Sartre said, "Man is condemned to be free." Both insist on direct experience, not belief, not dogma. It's about seeing life for yourself, not through the lens of tradition or authority. Here's something else they share: compassion. It might sound surprising since existentialism seems individualistic. But when you realize that everyone is struggling to make sense of an absurd world, compassion naturally follows. The Buddhist sees that all beings suffer from attachment. The existentialist sees that all beings face meaninglessness. Both perspectives open the door to empathy. When you understand that others are carrying the same weight, kindness becomes almost rational. Now, where they differ is in their end goal. Buddhism ultimately seeks nirvana, a state beyond suffering, beyond the self. Existentialism doesn't have such a final liberation. For Camus, there's no escape from the absurd. There's only the choice to live fully within it. The Buddha dissolves the self. Camus affirms it. Yet both recognize that the self we cling to, the story we tell about who we are, is fragile and temporary. Both see ego as a kind of illusion. The Buddhist dissolves it through meditation. The existentialist exposes it through honesty. If you look at modern psychology, you can see how these ideas blend. Mindfulness, for example, comes from Buddhism, but it is often used today to help people deal with anxiety and uncertainty, problems that existential thinkers also explored. When people talk about being present or accepting what you can't control, they're living a mix of Buddhist and existentialist wisdom without even realizing it. So maybe Buddhism and existentialism aren't strangers after all. Maybe they are two languages describing the same human experience, both born out of deep honesty, both unwilling to lie about life's emptiness, and both offering a way to find meaning not by escaping the absurd, but by embracing it. We live in a time where distraction is everywhere. Endless scrolling, consumerism, quick pleasures, all of it designed to avoid the discomfort of facing the question, why? Both Buddhism and existentialism invite us to stop running, to sit still, to look at the absurdity, the suffering, the uncertainty, and to live anyway, to love anyway, to create anyway, Because maybe the point isn't to solve life. Maybe it's to live it consciously. The Buddha found peace by letting go of the illusion of control. Camus found joy by revolting against meaninglessness. In both cases, the secret is the same. Stop demanding that the world make sense and start making sense of yourself within it. When you stop waiting for life to hand you meaning, when you stop fighting impermanence, a strange kind of freedom appears. You realize you don't need perfect answers. You just need presence. You just need awareness. You just need to keep pushing your boulder, not because it will stay at the top, but because the act of pushing, of living, is itself the meaning. So, in the end, Buddhism and existentialism are not so different. One sits beneath a tree in silence. The other smokes in a Paris cafe. But both, in their own way, whisper the same truth. Life is absurd. Life is suffering. Yet within that absurdity, within that suffering, lies the possibility of freedom. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.